All right, folks, buckle up because we are about to dive headfirst into some seriously wild stuff.
You think you've seen it all? Well, thank you again, because this time, we're taking you on a trip back in time to 2025.
Back when fax machines were apparently still a thing.
At the U.S. Department of Education, no less.
We're talking about a document so bizarre, so out there, it's like something out of a political satire.
Executive Order Full 499, dissolution of the Department of Education, immediate no Vaseline?
No Vaseline. That's a new one.
It sets the tone right. Straight to the point, no messing around.
Our mission, should you choose to accept it, is to break down this executive order.
We'll sift through the chaos and try to figure out what it all means for, well, everyone.
We're not just going to tell you what's in the document, though.
Oh, no, we're going deeper.
We've got some insider commentary, some reactions, whispers from the halls of power.
We're talking about a fax that landed on Linda McMahon's desk, and let's just say,
She was not thrilled.
I wouldn't be either if my fax machine was spitting out the death warrant of my entire department.
Talk about a bad day at the office.
The author of this document doesn't hold back in describing the scene either.
Paints a vivid picture of Trump in a sterile white room,
Gritting like a kid who just set a pile of textbooks on fire.
surrounded by advisors who apparently have the IQ of stale toast and the moral compass of a used tissue.
You know, the kind you find at the bottom of your purse. Not pretty.
And Trump's reasoning for this whole the bottle.
Education is useless, he claims. And get this, he actually thinks he's proof.
The ultimate cell phone right there.
The author goes on to describe Trump's grand plan, which basically boils down to this.
Smash the Department of Education, hand over its responsibilities to a bunch of unqualified cronies?
Fire half the staff and tweet about it with Elon Musk.
Sounds about right.
And of course, this whole plan is being sold under the banner of freedom.
Freedom from what exactly? Common sense.
Apparently so.
Let's talk about the money now, because that's where it gets real.
According to our source, 13% of school funding comes from the federal government.
Doesn't sound like a lot, but according to the author, this is where the real damage happens.
He talks about the last lunchbox,
The special education programs that kids like Lisa with autism rely on.
the school counselors who are there for kids like Henry when they're struggling with self-harm.
You know those pesky things that actually make a difference in kids' lives?
The author really drives home the point that these cuts would have devastating consequences for real people.
And he even throws in a little comparison between Trump's alternative facts and the teaching of evolution in Texas.
Nice.
Just a little jab there to highlight the absurdity of it all.
Then there's the whole question of what happens when education is left to the states.
Picture this: Florida banning books, Texas teaching kids that dinosaurs and Jesus were best buddies,
Tennisaurs outlawing critical thinking?
Alabama offering elective like Bible study for beginners, gun maintenance 101, and advanced homophobia.
Okay, maybe that last one's a bit of an exaggeration.
But the point is, the author envisions a chaotic patchwork of education systems where ideology trumps facts and kids are left to fend for themselves.
And teachers,
They're caught in the crossfire.
forced to choose between lying to keep their jobs and telling the truth and ending up unemployed.
Talk about a lose-lose situation.
The author sums it up with this chilling metaphor.
Education was once the key to freedom, now it's the padlock to mass stupidity.
And reading is only valuable if it's printed on a golf ball.
That's pretty bleak.
It is, but the author doesn't leave us hanging.
No, he offers two options: cry or write.
Cry and wallow in despair, or write and fight back with words.
And that brings us to his slam tip of the day, a confession-style slam that he describes as Kafka on acid.
It's raw, it's visceral, it's like listening to a serial killer's voicemail.
He even gives us some examples of slam lines that will make you laugh and cringe at the same time.
Lines like, I laughed when you told me education was the highest good because I knew already in your America, education is a clearance item between soda and patriotism.
Or the one about asking for years about the leaky school roof and being ignored while teachers quit to go work jobs that don't involve having their brains violated by facts.
He encouraged us to imagine delivering these slams as if they were our last words from the electric chair.
To really drive home the urgency and the gravity of the situation.
And just when you think it can't get any weirder, he drops this gem.
My first teacher smelled like vanilla. She got fired now. She works at a call center for erotic cough hotlines.
It's funny, it's sad, it's a perfect encapsulation of the absurdity that the author is railing against.
And then comes the shameless plug for his book, Poetry Master.
The book that promises to turn you into a lyrical warrior, a master of metaphor, a wordsmith extraordinaire.
It's described as a blast knuckle, a screwdriver for your synapses, a flamethrower for your metaphors.
Basically the ultimate weapon in the fight against ignorance.
The book apparently teaches you how to trick audiences, write confessions that would make Satan blush.
Use words like crowbars and tell stories that would make Netflix weep.
All in 7 days.
But here's the catch.
The most important ingredient is something you can't buy.
Courage.
Because without courage, all the fancy metaphors and slam techniques in the world won't make a difference.
You got to be willing to speak truth to power even when it's uncomfortable.
And then, just to make sure we're all sufficiently terrified, he leaves us with this parting thought.
When education dies, first comes the death of decency, and then comes yours.
So there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour through Executive Order 1499 and its potential consequences.
We've explored the proposed dissolution of the Department of Education, the author's scathing critique of the motives behind it, and the potential fallout for funding, state control, and ultimately the future of education itself.
We've also been introduced to the idea of using poetry slam as a form of protest, a way to channel our anger, our fear, and our hope into words that can move and inspire.
So we leave you with this. What role does education play in your vision of a just and equitable society?
And what are you willing to do to protect it?
If you're feeling inspired to take up the fight against ignorance and apathy, we highly recommend checking out Poetry Master Posey Croft and Seven Taken.
It might just be the spark you need to ignite your own creative revolution.
Say creative, Stefan.